They are...
Welcome back. Molly Hemingway, no thanks to the people that served in the Obama administration or the Democrat Party or the media. We now have this list of individuals from November 2016 through January 2017 who are hot on unmasking anything related to Michael Flynn. And by the way, for all we know, an awful lot of other American citizens. His name is leaked to David Ignatius, a liberal columnist for the Washington Post. But all kinds of people are on this list, including the Vice President of the United States on January 12th. What do you say to this?
Well, it's interesting. First, I think it's important to remember what's happening with masking of American citizens' names. We have broad powers given to our federal government to spy on people, and in the course of spying on people, they might collect information on American citizens. We have privacy rights, we have civil liberties that make sure that our agencies are supposed to mask that information so that we don't have spying against American citizens. Now, sometimes you might have a legitimate reason to unmask the name of a private citizen. But remember, they're masked precisely because the information is so sensitive, they don't even want it shared within the intelligence community. Now, first thing is that intelligence officials will frequently say that unmasking is rare. That's not true. It happens all the time, unfortunately. But it's supposed to happen from intelligence officials who are investigating, from people who have legitimate investigative responsibility. No one in the West Wing of the White House has legitimate investigative responsibility. And so when we look at this name of some of the people who were unmasking just one individual in the Trump transition, and we have reason to believe that they were unmasking everybody in the Trump transition, we see that there are high-level officials in the West Wing. Joe Biden, I mean, that's interesting. Chief of Staff to Barack Obama was unmasking Mike Flynn's name. And there are a lot of concerns, not even just because they're unmasking, but because they're sharing that information around and leaking it. They were doing so much leaking in December and January and even into the new administration. That's what set this false narrative. And that's why the unmasking is interesting. Now, it is also true that we have reason to believe, based on testimony previously given, that Mike Flynn's name was actually never masked as it related to the phone call with Ambassador Kislyak. And that would be inappropriate to have failed to mask that information initially. But that means that even more people had access to it throughout the FBI, and we know that they were sharing it sort of willy-nilly with people at other agencies as well.
And they're spreading this information around. It's quite ubiquitous, actually. I mean, I can't understand why the ambassador to Turkey needs this information and 4 or 5 other ambassadors. Why do you think they were doing that? To leak it?
I think it was partly for, I don't know, and we don't actually know exactly what was unmasked here. As I mentioned, the phone call with Kislyak, we are told, was never masked to begin with, and that's inappropriate. Whatever they were unmasking throughout December and January, these high-level officials throughout the Obama administration, they could have just been on fishing expeditions for other things. We also know, as you noted, that there were changes to the rules prohibiting sharing of this information, so it was getting shared around to a wide variety of people. Maybe that was to give cover to people who were leaking. Maybe that was to ensure better leaks or just to help that leak operation. Again, the reason why we care about this isn't even about the intelligence itself, although clearly we have abuses of that process. It's because the Trump administration was the victim of a coordinated leak campaign to set a knowingly false narrative of Russia collusion. This could have been horrible in terms of foreign relations, and it was actually quite horrible in terms of foreign relations. It was horrible for domestic policy. It really undermined the healthy governance of the Trump administration, and it went on for years. It's not just what they did prior to the inauguration. It's what they continue to do, continuing to set up a special counsel investigation that was completely ridiculous and sidelined so much good work in the administration for a matter of years, and it keeps on going. And so this is unprecedented levels of unmasking and leaking and conspiring against an incoming administration. We always prided ourselves on having healthy, smooth transitions of power. This was a willful attempt to undermine that smooth transition of power, and that's an attack on the American people themselves.
Seems like the greatest entity that interfered in the election was the Obama administration. We'll be right back.